Thank you, Eduardo. Good evening, everybody. So tonight we're going to talk about freely you have received, freely give, as Eduardo mentioned. So we're going to start with Matthew here. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. So the idea about here is, when we talk about this passage here on Gospel, we're talking about freely you, Jesus told to his disciples. With these words, he recommended that no one charge for something that they hadn't cost anything in the first place. Now that the disciples had received freely, was a gift of healing the sick and casting out devils. In example, wrongdoing spirits. God have these gifts to them in order to ease other suffering and spread faith. Jesus told the disciples not to commercialize their gifts. Something that happens a lot when we don't understand what's going on, or there's something new that it's not easy to explain. People can take advantage of that, right? Because if there is something that is for a brief period of time called unnatural, it can inspire people that are not working to God to misuse that information that they have, or that the gift that they have, right? While all the people, now let's talk about Luke here in Mark. While all the people were listening, Jesus said to his disciples, "Be aware of teachers of the law. They like to walk around in floating robes and love to be greeted in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the place of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. Such men will be punished most severely." So again, right, Jesus told to people not to charge for their prayers, right? Not to imitate the teachers of the law who devour homes of the widows by making them pay for long prayers. And the idea here is that prayer is an act of love, an ecstasy of the heart. To charge someone for prayers that we direct to God on their behalf is to turn ourselves in paid go-betweens. So imagine the idea. We're going to put a price tag on a prayer. It doesn't make any sense, right? But so on this, let me just come back a little bit here. On this chapter here, we are talking about paying for somebody to pray for you or to do something for you here in this case. When we talk about somebody else to pray with you, of course it has a benefit. Imagine a mom that is praying for her son or her daughter that is going through some difficult period of time. Of course, God will listen to it. Of course, the good spirits will help that mother and influence the kid somehow to ease that pain or to help on a moment of trouble, right? But that's not the case here. We are talking about people that charge for something that they believe they can elude somebody. That in that case back then it was most of they really believed that that person would be able to do something good about it. But if you think about it now, that we have a different level of we are in a different evolutionary stage. When you start hearing words like that, it comes just like that. It's clear that it's not going to do any good, right? So the idea about charging for prayers, it's not something that should be seen with good eyes. So God doesn't sell benefits. God grants them. So how can someone who isn't an agent of God and can't guarantee good results charge for a prayer and that might come to nothing? The mercy, kindness, and justice of God can be subordinate to money. Of course, God will never put a price tag on a prayer or on some benefit or something like that. It's not going to ever work like that, right? Every time that you put money with some kind of, let me call it, some kind of, how can I say that?
I would say something like this. Mediumism is not a talent.
We're going to go there later.
Okay.
So hold the thought. Hold the thought. We're going to talk about mediumship later. Right now we're just talking about prayers. Right? But the idea that I was trying to put here is every time that you put money with something that shouldn't be charged, it get a bad connotation, right?
You raise the benefits, right?
And that's the case, right? It might be that the person that is asking for the prayer has good intentions and really believes that by doing that, it's going to help this person, right? In most of the cases, that's what happens, right? But it's because that person didn't get the idea straight that something like that is not going to do any good. What's going to help that person to get better, right? If that person wants to really help herself, the thing that will help the most here is the inner transformation, right? Is for you to start changing your bad habits and replace them by good habits, right? Stop making the same old mistakes and start doing what Jesus is taught us 2,000 years ago. But anyway, so imagine if for time of timely payment, God's mercy and kindness and justice were temporarily suspended. This hardly makes sense, right? Reason, common sense, and logic tell us that God and the Almighty imperfect beings, God the Almighty, imperfect beings the right to set a price on divine justice, which, like the sum, exists for everyone, rich or poor alike. So when we talk about divine justice, there is no difference. God doesn't see the different people with different eyes, right? This is something that for us here in the state of evolution that we are, it's so much easier for us to look at your son with different eyes that you see any other person, right? Because you truly love that person, right? I think this is something that we still don't understand, but God look us all of their sons. We are their sons, right? And that's how He looked to us. Of course, we have people that make mistakes, but the point of view is that if you are making mistake, is the point of view that we have to take here is not because you are a bad person. It's because you are ignorant. You don't know yet what you have to do. You don't know that every time you do something bad, you have to pay for that, right? You have to somehow reap whatever you're sowing. And the other point here that I would like to touch is that divine justice exists for everybody. Doesn't matter what kind of church this person is going. It doesn't matter if this person believes in some kind of a God. It doesn't work like that, right? God is going to be there for everybody. So, and Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought the temple in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money charges and the seats of them that sold doves, and said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but yet have made it a den of thieves. So again, back then it was normal, right? It still is. If you see, if you think about, you still have a business about selling sacred material, right? At least in Brazil, at least on the 90s, it was so common for you to see people selling pieces of material, and they say if you buy it, that's going to give you some good luck, or other churches saying that no, if you make sure that you pay the church or whatever the donation that you do on time, if you make sure that you do it on time, God will look you with different eyes, and you're going to be buying a spot in the heaven. It doesn't work like that, right? We know that it doesn't work like that. What will make us enter in the kingdom of heaven is the way that we act, right? Is how we act, is how we behave, is how good can we do. So this is what is going to grant us our spot in the heaven, right? Let's call it like that for now. But this is the kind of stuff that money will never be able to buy. Okay, it doesn't matter how much money you give to which kind of institution. Ain't gonna happen. So when Jesus expelled the merchants from the temple, he commanded the trading of sacred things in any form whatsoever. God doesn't sell blessing, forgiveness, or the right to enter the kingdom of heaven. Just talk about it. Human beings have no right to specify a price for such things. Again, right, it would never make sense that God would say, okay, if you pay this amount of money, you're good. You're going to we're going to save you something good. Never going to work like that. Right? So let's keep in mind that we are responsible for all the trials that we go. Everybody will have issues on their daily lives, right? We are making mistakes. Of course, divine justice will make us repair for all those mistakes, right? And the other point that we have to think about here is that when we are talking about the prayers, I should talk about this one before, it doesn't matter how much time it takes for you to pray. It doesn't matter how many words you put in your prayer. What matters is how sincere is that. If it's coming from your heart, that's what makes a difference, right? And doesn't pray just because you want to pray, right? I understand that some people, before they go to sleep, they pray, right? And they just do some words because they're used to it, right? But instead of just making this prayer, if you can take that period of time to think about what have you done during that day, right? Make you use that time to think about how did you behave that day? What can you do to avoid small mistakes or something that you did that you're not proud about it? And maybe tomorrow can be a better day, right? You can avoid those mistakes, and that's what matters, right? So let's go to the next one. So here we're going to talk about mediumship, right? So like the apostles who were mediums in their own right, the mediums of today receive their gift freely from God. It isn't right to charge for their gifts because the message that mediums convey isn't the result of their own ideas or research or personal work. Note that God wants the light to reach everyone. So when I was talking at the beginning about something that might be called that might not be something natural for us, Mediumship falls into this category depending on how much you understand. If you are able to read or follow the doctrine, or depending on how much information you have about it, it might be something like that. Anyway, the mediumship that we were talking about is the communications between the spirits, right? And it can be just the communications. Sometimes it has different kind of mediumships, right? The mediums. We have the mediums that they can feel, that they can hear, that they can write, right? And you have one of the most, that I think is the most special, is that one that can heal as well. Right? So none of those gifts that come through the mediumship should be charged, right? If you receive it for free, give for free, right? Give freely. Of course, a bunch of people will try to make it as a profession, right? They were going to try to make money on it, and this is not why God gave this gift to those people. So we should also consider the nature of affinity the mediums has with those in the spirit realm. Serious mediumship is not and never can be made into a profession. As a gift, mediumship is basically unstable, elusive, changeable. No one can count on it as something permanent. So let's say it used to happen a lot, at least in the city that I was living down there in Brazil, that somebody will say, oh, I know that person there, and if you go there, that person will give you, will be able to tell you about your future and give you a bunch of, will talk about what you should do and advices, right? Stuff like that. You just have to pay a small fee, and that's going to be it, right? But it's very good. And of course, people will go there because they didn't have any information about how mediumship works, right? If you have more information about it, and you start thinking about it, okay, this person here will talk to some kind of spirit or pretend to talk. Let's not get to that merit for now. But, and then I'll have to give money for this person, right? So if you start thinking about it, what kind of spirit do you think will be helping that person back there? Enlightened spirits are not going to do this kind of work, right? They wouldn't waste their time with this kind of a deal, right? So again, the idea is avoid things that might look like a business, right? And of course, if you have this kind of gift, of course, how do you develop that? Coming to the center, reading the medium's book. You have to develop that faculty as well, right? And of course, as much information as you get, as clear as it gets, that you shouldn't ever charge for this kind of gifts. Mediumship is sacred and should be practiced in a saintly and devout manner. If there is one type of mediumship that demands this attitude more absolute than other, is the healing. The spiritual healing, mediums relies on healing energies from the good spirits themselves, and so doesn't have the right to charge for them. Again, right? Over there, I'm going to talk about a lot about my city in Brazil, but you have a lot of people that you could go there for healing, right? Sometimes the baby is not feeling good, so just go to that place, right? And of course, you had places that they wouldn't charge for that, right? So, just come here, I'm going to bless your kid, and your kid will feel better, right? Of course, if there is a faith behind it, from the mother, and of course there is something that God allowed that to happen, of course that kid will feel better, right? But the part that we have to always keep an eye on it, is it a business or not, right? Is there any kind of money involved with that or not? Right? And we always have to be skeptic when it comes to places like that, institutions like that, right? Whatever we call it. Person lacking necessary financial support can earn a living from whatever activity they like, except mediumship. If necessary, they should devote to mediumship only the time they have available after providing for their material needs. For their part, the good spirits will value the devotion and sacrifice of these persons. They will, however, turn away from mediums who intend to use them as stepping stone to earthly gratification. Again, right? Good spirits are not gonna work with people like that, with people with bad intentions. We already understand the law of affinities, right? Of course, you're gonna be tuned with the kind of spirits that whatever your vibrations are, right? If you have good thoughts, if you have good vibrations, you're gonna be connected with the good spirits. When you're mad, when you're angry, they're not gonna be there you're not gonna be able to listen to them, right? Even if they are next to you and they are ready to help you, you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't be able to connect to them and listen whatever good thing that they're talking to you, or they want to talk to you. And I think that's gonna be it for tonight. Yeah, sure. Go.
Because you didn't say about the books. Because to remember about the books. Because a lot of people notice how rentable can be selling spiritist books. So we have to be aware. Because like Chico Xavier, he never charged for any of his books. Never. So if you are in doubt about the book, because sometimes it's not a very serious medium that is writing, sometimes it's not a spirit that is writing, it's just from
their own thoughts,
author's head, his imagination. If you're in doubt, you always go to books that are from FED, the Brazilian Federation.
Or the Spirits Federation, right? It doesn't need to be the Brazilian one, right?
Yes.
So if you see that there is the stamp over there, it's good to go.
Of course, all the books from Chico Xavier, Divaldo, those that we know. Because some books are just imagination and say a lot of wrong things that we don't believe in the doctrine. And you have to be paying attention to this too.
Yeah. Very good. Any other comments? Any other questions? Things that you want to share? Good? Okay, so thank you very much all for coming tonight. And I think we're going to have the passing. Thank you.
And if you don't know what the passing is we receive the people on that room. It's just the energy, the lay